Hello, welcome back. So now in this part, we will see what are the general considerations for the design of slabs. So in this, our first aspect is about the effective span. How do we find out effective span in case of slab? So basically, slab can be of isolated roof or can be of multi-story building. So in that, how do we find out the effective span, effective shorter span and effective longer span? So IS code have suggested some rules for different type of slab depending on the support condition. So that we will see here. And why it is important to find out effective span, because it is directly dependent on the calculation of bending moment. So generally we design our slab or beams for resisting bending moment, and bending moment varies with the effective span. So therefore it becomes very important to find out the effective span correctly. And therefore there is a clause in the IS code. So if you refer to this clause, clause number 22.2, then according to that clause, we have different type of support condition. And in this, if we have simply supported slab will be simply like this. If this is a slab and it is supported on, say, on walls. So in that case, what should be the effective span? So in this, this will be known as the clear span. So clear span I'm referring as L, and effective span will be, it says effective span will be the lesser of clear span plus effective depth of slab. So first we need to find out clear span will be given. So we need to find out effective depth initially. And by adding this, we get the one effective span, and the second one is the center to center of the support. So center to center of supports will be this. So we will find out two values of effective span, and the lesser value of these two will give us the effective span in case of simply supported slab on in this case. Similarly, if we have the second case, in this, if we have the continuous slab where the width of support is less than 1/12 of the clear span. So for example, if we have a continuous slab, say like this, and if it is supporting like this, and it says if the width of slab, if it is less than 1/12 of the clear span, so we know that this is the clear span L. So if this width is less than 1/12 of clear span, then we will apply the same rule as we have applied in the case 1. So this is what IS code have suggested. Similarly, we can have another case like the beam is continuous, sorry, the slab is continuous when the width of support is greater than the lesser of 1/12 of clear span and 600 mm. So like I have shown you in the figure in the previous slide, again I'm making the same diagram. If we have this slab resting on some of the supports like this. So in this, if this width is greater than the higher value of the lesser value of 1/12 of clear span and 600 mm. If this value is greater than these two value, then the the effective span will be calculated based on three cases: 1, 2, 3. In this case, in the first case, it says for end span. So here, this will be known as end span because after this there is no continuation of the slab. So this span will be known as end span. So it says for end span with one end fixed and the other end continuous, or for intermediate span. So if we consider that this end is fixed and this end is continuous, as you can see this end is continuous, then it will be the clear span between the supports. So it will be the clear span, which means this one. Clear span will be the support. So in this case, L will be the value of effective span. Okay, similarly, the same case is applies to the intermediate span also. So for example, if this slab is extended to another support, so in that case, this span will become intermediate. It will be continuous from this end and it will be continuous from this end. So in this case also, it will be L. And the case is when this width of support is higher than the lesser of 1/12 of clear span and 600 mm. In that case, L will be equivalent to the L effective. Similarly, in the second case, for end span with one end free and the other end continuous. So like in this case, you can see uh, this end is continuous, and if we consider that this end is free, this end is free. So in that case, what will be the value? It says lesser of clear span plus half the effective depth of slab, and second is clear span plus half the width of discontinuous support. Discontinuous support can be one second, for end span with one end free and the other end continuous. So in this case, the discontinuous support will be this one. As you can see, this is running continuously. So in this case, this is the discontinuous support. So it says clear span plus half the effective depth of slab, and in B case, clear span plus half the width of discontinuous support. So in the whole slab, the discontinuous support will be this one. So we will consider half the width of this discontinuous support in calculating this span. Okay. Similarly, the third one, span with roller or rocker support. In this case, if our slab is having roller support, say it may be continuous or it may not be continuous. So in that case, it will be the center to center of the bearing. It says the distance between the centers of the bearing. Similarly, if we have cantilever slab at the end of the continuous slab, so again, if we have the continuous slab, say there is support and there is another support and it may be extending like this. So in that case, what will be this span, this effective span in this case? So it says length up to the center of support. So this is the support, so this is the center. So in this case, this will become the effective span for this portion. If we have cantilever span, which means if we have directly cantilever slab, like it may be supported on the beam. So in that case, what will be the effective span? It says length up to the face of support plus half the effective depth. Say this is the effective depth and this is the length up to the face of support. So in that case, it will be L plus D by 2 in case if we are designing cantilever slab. Similarly, if we have multi-story building framed structures, so in that case, uh, generally we measure the distance, the effective span of the slab as center to center of the supports. So we may have so many panels. So in that case, say if we have the multi-story building, so in that case, the span of the slab will be considered as center to center of the support on which they are supporting. So these are the points that are already given in the IS code. So you can refer to the IS code. Now coming to the next aspect, next consideration of the slab, and that is the minimum thickness. So what should be the minimum thickness of the slab, which means the D or the overall depth D. Well, as I discussed earlier also that in the slab, serviceability factor is very important in deciding the depth because this depth is generally governed by the serviceability factor, and serviceability, in the serviceability, it is the deflection that generally governs the uh, thickness of the slab. It satisfies the bending moment requirement, but generally it doesn't satisfy the deflection requirement. So therefore it becomes very important to check the depth against the deflection criteria because slabs are the thin members as compared to the beam. So therefore, in this, we have to find out the deflection first, and with the deflection relation, we can relate that with the dimension of the slab, and to be specific, the depth. So for example, if we have this slab, and if it is supporting on two ends, so because of this UDL, it will deflect downward like this. So this is the maximum deflection which generally occurs in the center. So this maximum deflection, one way is we calculate this maximum deflection, and then IS code permits, IS code gives some allowable limits. So if this maximum deflection is less than the allowable limits of a deflection, then we say that our slab is fine. Now, in this process, it is a little lengthy process. In this, we have to find out deflection all the time, and then we compare that with the allowable limits. So basically, IS code or some other country code or, follow two bases. So we have two options. Which option we should follow? So that I will show you first. So basically there are two methods. One is checking the actual deflection against the allowable limits. So that is what I have explained here. And the second is adopting a specified maximum span to depth ratio for which serviceability can be assumed to be satisfied. So in this case, what we can do is we can develop a relation to say this is L, and if this is the D ratio. So generally we develop a relation in terms of L by D ratio. So this ratio is generally dependent on the support condition. So if we have simply supported slab, then this ratio will be different. If we have continuous slab, it will be different. If we have cantilever slab, it will be different. So this ratio is directly given in the IS code. And with this ratio, we can have a relationship, which means L by D ratio is equals to L by D is equals to a ratio. So with this, we can initially estimate the value of D for the slab. So this second method is also adopted in our IS code. And this method we are going to discuss to see how we generally initially estimate the thickness of the slab. So this ratio that I have just discussed with you, it is given in the IS code. And this is the clause. So there in this clause, you can see the ratio of the IS code, the ratio of L by D for different support condition. So for your reference, I have provided here also. So if we have simply supported slab, which means the slab with simply supported resting on this. So in this case, the L by D ratio will be 20. Similarly, if we have continuous slab supports maybe more than 2. In that case, for this the ratio is 26. And if we have the cantilever slab, like this, so in that case the L by D ratio is 7. In this case, L by D is 26. So these are the ratios which are given here. And it says in the note that this ratio is applicable when the span, which means this L value, is up to 10 meter. So this is applicable for up to 10 meter. In case if our span is more than 10, then the value may be multiplied by this factor, 10 by the span. So whatever value we have got, it is for up to 10 meter span. If we have span of the slab more than 10 meter, then we will find out the this ratio. For example, our span is 12 meter. So in that case, we will find out this ratio, and this ratio will be multiplied by this ratio. Then only we will get the L by D ratio for our case. Okay. So now this ratio is not the direct that we implement to find out this L by D ratio. to satisfy the deflection criteria, because our slab is also having some reinforcement. So this deflection which is in the slab, it is also affected by the amount of reinforcement, how much reinforcement we are providing in our slab. So this deflection dependent is on that factor also, and therefore we sometimes find out that factor, that which is called modification factor. First I will show you that in the IS code, and then I will discuss how we can have some rule of thumb to initially estimate the depth of slab. So here you can see this is the close. From there we can have the L by D ratio for different support conditions of the slab, and it is up to 10 meter. Okay, so as I said that this L by D ratio is also dependent on the amount of reinforcement that we generally provide in the slab. So based on the percentage of reinforcement that our slab have, it has another factor which we need to multiply with this. So first I will show you that. So that factor is calculated by this graph, and in this graph you can see this is the percentage of tension reinforcement, and this tension reinforcement, I mean, once we have the amount of steel, we can find out Fs value also, and this Fs value is basically showing here in the form of curve. So for example, if we have Fs value 240 and our percentage of reinforcement is 0.4. So for this, the factor which we will multiply with the ratio that we have discussed earlier, we will multiply this. So if we have 240 Fs curve, so if we visualize this, so where it will bisect here. So corresponding to this, the factor can be say 1.3. So this is how we can find out this modification factor depending on the amount of steel. Now the optimal percentage of reinforcement that generally our slab has, it is around 0.3%. So if we assume that the reinforcement is 0.3%, and for this 0.3%, if for this 0.3%, if we put, I mean, if we consider that area of steel required and provided is 1, then this value will be around 237 or 238, which will be just above this 240. So our curve will something like this. And the percentage of steel that we have just assumed optimally, which generally provide this much reinforcement. So 0.3 will be somewhere here. So if we visualize this, where will it cut? It will cut somewhere near this value. So this value we can read as 1.4. So now L by D ratio, if we have simply supported slab, so it will be 20 into this factor 1.4. So this becomes L by D is equals to 28, or we can say that D is equals to L by 28. So this is how we can initially estimate the depth or the thickness of the slab in our case. Okay, so generally in the thumb rule, what we take is, for initial estimation, we take L by 25. Similarly, for continuous slab, we take L by 30. So that is the relation of thickness with the deflection. So with this discussion, you can see that our thickness of slab is dependent on the deflection criteria. So now again, I will go to the slide. So that is the discussion. And as I said, generally effective depth of the simply supported one-way slab can be assumed L by 25. Similarly, I mean, with this, we can calculate initially the value of D. And for continuous slab, it will be L by 30. Now, the next consideration, very important consideration in the slab, is the concrete cover. What should be the value of concrete cover? So I have discussed this in the previous course also. Concrete cover is dependent on the table 16 and 16a. So I will show you these two tables again to show you what should be the value of cover for different exposure condition, because this cover is dependent on the durability of the structural member and the fire resistance, how much fire resistance we want to provide in the member. So this is the table 16, which in which the nominal value of cover, clear cover is mentioned depending on the different type of mild exposure. So I mean different type of exposure. So if we have mild exposure, we have moderate exposure or severe or very severe. So based on that, we have these cover value, minimum cover that we should provide in our member, that is dependent on the type of exposure. Here in the notes, there are some values provided, like it says for main reinforcement up to 12 mm dia bar, for mild exposure, the nominal cover may be reduced by 5 mm. Similarly, unless specified otherwise, actual concrete cover should not deviate from the required nominal cover. So it says that the value of cover should not be less than or more than 10 mm than the standard value. And for exposure conditions severe and very severe, we can reduce the cover by 5 mm if we are using grade of concrete M35. So these are some of the notes that are provided here to guide the value of covers. So this is table 16, depending, so cover can be dependent on exposure. Also, if we are designing our structure performance based, so if we want to resist our member, we want to make our member fire resistance, then based on the fire resistance time, we can have our covers. So for example, if we want to resist our, I mean if we want our member to be resisted at least half an hour from the fire, then minimum cover for the slab will be 20. Similarly, for 1 hour it should be, I mean up to 1 hour, the cover 20 mm in slab will be okay. Similarly, for more resistance time, we need to increase the cover value. So this is how we can find out the cover with these two tables. Then we have another consideration, that is the minimum reinforcement in the steel. So what should be the value of minimum reinforcement in the steel? So that is given in this clause of the IS code. So you can refer to this clause. And as per this clause, it says that in one-way and two-way slab, the amount of minimum reinforcement will be 0.15% in case of FE 250, and in case if we are using FE 415 or FE 500 steel, then it can be 0.12% of the total cross sectional area of the slab. So basically we are designing unit strip slab. So if this is unit strip 1 meter and this is say the effective span, so basically in this case, if this is D value, depth of slab, so it becomes 0.12% of total cross sectional area. So in this case, B into D. So B will be 1 meter, D will be the overall thickness of the slab. So this is how we can find out the 0.12% of this area of steel. So that we will see when we will be solving the numerical problem. Then next point is what should be the maximum dia? I mean, how much dia we can provide in the slab. So this is also given in the IS code. Some limit of the dia of bar is also given in this. So it says the maximum dia of bar to be used in one-way and two-way slab shall not exceed 1/8 of total depth of the slab. For example, we have 150 mm thick slab. So what is the maximum dia that we can use in this slab? So it will be 150 by 8. So it will be something around 16 mm. So the maximum dia of bar that we can use in this slab as a main reinforcement dia, it will be around 16 mm. Similarly, what should be the maximum distance between the bars? So as we know that in the slab, we will be providing reinforcement. So what should be the spacing? What should be the spacing? So spacing is also guided by the IS code. IS code has provided some recommendation about this also, and that is in this clause 26.3.3. So in this it says for if we are providing main reinforcement, then it says that the spacing should be the least of 3 times of effective depth and 300 mm, whichever is less. And similarly, if we are providing distribution reinforcement, so in this case, spacing should be the least of 5 times of effective depth and 450 mm, whichever is less. So that is the recommendation for maximum reinforcement. Now, if we look at the detailing of reinforcement, how do we provide reinforcement in the one-way slab? So that is also I will be showing you in this. So here you can see this is the plan of a one-way slab, and in this reinforcement is provided along the longer span, and this is basically the distribution reinforcement. Similarly, along the shorter span, there are some bars which are provided alternately bent up. So one bar is bent up here and provided straight. Similarly, the second bar is bent up here and provided straight. So in this fashion, we provide reinforcement up to the whole span. So this is how they runs up to this. Sorry. So this is how we provide the reinforcement. If we cut the section to see how these bars are provided. So if we look at the section BB, then it will be, sorry, if we first look at the section AA. So here you can see these bar will look like this. So these are one bar is coming like this and then bending like this. Similarly, the second bar is coming like this and then bending like this. So this is how this reinforcement is provided. So with this you can see in the middle we have maximum number of bars, which means at this place we have the maximum number of or maximum amount of reinforcement, and at this support we have half of this reinforcement. The reinforcement that we have provided in this mid span, at the support it will be half, because half is going up. So we are considering only the tension reinforcement which is below the neutral axis. So because we know that bending moment at the support is 0, so therefore we can provide less reinforcement at the bottom. And this bent up reinforcement generally resists the shear also. So that is why we make this bent up reinforcement. Similarly, if we look at the section BB, so here you can see these dot which are below the line, they are actually the main reinforcement, and this line, this is actually the distribution reinforcement. So this is how we can show the reinforcement detail in the sketch. So now in the next part, we will see what is the design steps for one-way slab design. Thank you.